Good day, all you wonderful people. Welcome to the program Changing the World with me, Lorette Dye. It is a privilege to share this time with you. The last few weeks, I became very aware again of just how busy people are. We have so much on our plates, and there's always something that we have to do, have to attend to, have to rush to, and at the end of the day, it creates a distance between us and God because we just don't seem to have time for Him. And I want to invite you to stop for a moment and with me focus on God. Let us take this time. Let us slow down. I want to invite you to spend this time with me in the presence of God. We are not asking for anything else but Jesus. And this times that we have with Him is precious. I want to talk to you today about the potter and the clay. I want to read from Jeremiah 18 verse 1. This is the message that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Jeremiah, go down to the potter's house. I will give you my message there. So I went down to the potter's house. I saw the potter working with clay at the wheel. He was making a pot from clay, but there was something wrong with the pot. So the potter used that clay again, and he made another pot. He used his hands to shape the pot he wanted it to be. Then this message from the Lord came to me. Family of Israel, you know that I can do the same thing with you. You are like the clay in the potter's hands, and I am like the potter. This message is from the Lord. I am also a potter. I do pottery, and it's one of the things that really gives joy to me in my life. And I want to give you some information about how it is to work with clay. Now, for one, you have to start by softening the clay. You have to get all the air bubbles out. So you have to knead the clay. And this takes a lot of effort and it takes time. It is hard work. And once you are done and you are ready, you then make it in a perfect round ball. The more perfect it is, the easier it is to work with clay. Then you put it on the wheel, and as far as you can, you put it in the middle of the wheel. And then you start by centering the clay. So you have to work with it, maybe bringing it up, taking it down again, molding it, working until you feel it is perfectly in the middle of the wheel. If it is not in the middle of the wheel, the chances that you will have a skew pot, a pot that doesn't come out right and good, is almost 100%. And once that is done, you can start molding the clay into a pot. And you can use your hands to shape it in a soft way into the shape and the pot that you want it to be. You can make something absolutely beautiful. It is just as easy to have something that is not nice. And here is the thing. Once you've worked with clay, there comes a time that you can overwork it. And when you overwork the clay, it is not usable anymore. We normally throw it away and start with a new piece of clay. But here, God says that even if it is a complete mess, even if it is actually at the point where you should throw it away, He will take that same clay and work with it and turn it into something beautiful. And that in itself is already a miracle that God says it is possible for Him to do that. Now, I just want to take one step back. We are talking about God being the potter and we are the clay. I said to you that at the beginning, when you start working with clay, you have to knead it. You have to make it soft and take out all the air bubbles. To make a beautiful pot can take a long time. It can take weeks when you do it 100% by hand, and if you take care about the detail. We can compare that to how God works with us. He takes His time. He makes sure that the foundation is right. He puts in effort. You know, when I was young, and now I'm referring to when I was about to leave school, I had an awareness that God is calling me. And I had this belief that now that I'm finishing school, I'm going to jump in and change the world for God. I am going to work for God. And then He gave a prophecy over my life. And He said, I am going to prepare you first. And I had to learn through the years that God takes time and put in a lot of effort to mold us and to shape us into something beautiful. It doesn't just happen. It is not a case of you just there and you've got everything sorted and you are already perfect. It's not the way it is. In actual fact, we will never be perfect, but we can be beautiful if we submit to God working in our lives. And if we understand there's a time of preparation where He has to knead out all the air bubbles, all the problems that in future could prevent us from being and becoming the beautiful pot that He wants us to be. Then you have to center the clay and you have to work on it and make sure that it is 100% centered. And God does the same. He works with us in terms of, are you centered in me? Are you exactly where you should be? And He takes His time to work on that relationship and to build our trust in Him and our understanding of Him. But we must be willing to be like clay in His hands, to be soft, to be pliable, and to be open for Him to work on us, not to resist that He works on us. I'm going to read for you from Isaiah 45, verse 9. Look at these people. They are arguing with the one who made them. Look at them argue with me. They are like pieces of clay from a broken pot. Clay does not say to the one molding it, man, what are you doing? Things that are made don't have the power to question the one who makes them. Isaiah 64 verse 8, but Lord, you are our Father. We are like clay, and you are the potter. Your hands made us all. It is important to remember that God can only fulfill His work in us and do with us and our lives what He planned and turn it into something beautiful if we submit. We are talking about the potter and the clay. I want to focus on what we can learn from that. God is wonderful because He takes time with us in preparing us. He has patience and He makes sure before anything else that we are centered in Him. What I learned from my life is that a big part of the journey that God is taking us on is about drawing us closer to Him, is about getting us to understand our dependency on Him, that we know that we can't without Him and that we should be centered in Him. And that is similar to when the potter centers the clay on the wheel before he starts to mold it into a beautiful pot that is not only beautiful to look at but also useful. And that is what God does. When I make a pot, I use different tools and I also use my hands. I'm trying to get the best outcome and the most beautiful form, and also that the walls are not too thick and therefore not too heavy. So there's a lot of things that I'm focusing on when I start to mold the pot. And I've realized that God is a God of detail. He knows what He made you to be. He knows the outcome He wants. And the only missing piece for many people is that they don't fully trust God, that they don't fully submit to God and know that He knows exactly what He does. And even if things go wrong in our lives, and even if it feels as if things are falling apart, God has a plan and He can do a miracle. As I said, as a potter, I never reuse clay. I put it out to be recycled, but I never reuse a piece of clay because it becomes overworked. But in the Jeremiah, it tells us that God takes that clay that were basically a flop and He works with it again. He starts over, and with patience and through a miracle, He turns it into a beautiful pot. And that is what God can do in your life. No matter what your life looks like at the moment, no matter how down and out you are, no matter what big a mess you think or feel your life is, give it over to God and He can take it, that offering that you have, that what you bring to Him, even although it seems as if it is a complete mess, He can turn it into something beautiful because God is able. There are a Japanese method of repairing broken pottery. It's called kintsugi. And what they do is, instead of trying to hide and repair something that you hardly can see where it was broken, they use gold, silver or platinum to repair the broken parts and to fix it. And in that way, they are actually celebrating the brokenness and the history instead of trying to ignore the brokenness. And that is something that is so beautiful because at the end, it is a pottery pot with glittering veins of this metallic glue, and it gives it a uniqueness that you won't find with or in anything else. There is a lesson to be learned from this. God never rejects us in our brokenness. God never punishes us in our brokenness. If we can learn that God of mercy sees our brokenness as part of our growth, as part of our beauty, it will also help us to look in a different way to our own brokenness. Jesus was also broken. He understands brokenness and He came to heal. And once you understand that when God heals you, you are perfect in His sight, then we will take our brokenness and put it in His hands. as we get to the end of our time together, I want to leave you with the following verses. In 2 Corinthians 4 verse 6, it is written, God once said, "Let light shine out of the darkness." And this is the same God who made his light shine in our hearts to let us know that his own divine greatness is seen in the face of Christ. And verse 7, we have this treasure from God, but we are only like clay jars that hold the treasure. This is to show that the amazing power we have is from God, not from us. Verse 8, we have troubles all around us, but we are not defeated. We often don't know what we do, but we don't give up. Verse 9, we are persecuted, but God does not leave us. We are hurt sometimes, but we are not destroyed. With this word, I want to remind you that you are a pot and God is the potter, and he will never give up on you. He will not leave you and he will not forsake you. Trust in him and give over to him every day, again and again, that he can do the work in you. You listened to Changing the World with me, Lorette Dye. Remember, changing the world starts with you. And don't let the day go by without laughing, dancing, singing, and sitting at God's feet. I am, as always, grateful for this time that you spent with me. Be safe and be blessed.